Good afternoon and welcome to another session of AQS Guild Buzz with Bonnie. And today I'm going to be talking with Sharon Rockholt, the president of the Cotton Patch Quilters Guild, and one of the very active members from her guild, Frances Arnold. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you, Bonnie. We're glad to be here.
Well, do you know, we've been using this program to share with quilters all over the country what other guilds have been doing. So let's start out by talking about how your guild was formed and where your guild is actually located.
Okay, thanks, Bonnie. We are the Cotton Patch Quilters, and we are located in Athens, Georgia. Athens is known as the home of the University of Georgia Bulldogs, and also home to a very vibrant artist community that we as quilters are really excited to be a part of. There's also a large music culture here. Many of our current popular singers have their start in garage bands here, which is always fun. Athens also has a quilting heritage that we're excited about, being the birthplace and home of the quilter Harriet Powers. Harriet was a Black woman who was born in the 1830s, and her quilts were mostly applique quilts based on pictures from her life and from local heroes around and from Bible stories. What I read about them is that there's two still out there now, two that still exist. One is hanging in the Smithsonian Institute, and it's supposed to be one of the best known examples of Southern quilting. And so we're excited to have that in our background as well.
Yeah, so you have a long history of quilting in your community then, don't you?
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, so let's talk about your guild and how your guild got started.
The guild began in 1985 with, I think, 10 or 12 people at that first meeting. We currently have about 100 to 125 people in any given year. We are a very diverse group. We have people that are working hard in hand quilting, and then we have people that are also modern quilters and doing some amazing quilting on long arms. So we kind of have that whole range of people being involved, and it's a great place to learn, because if anything you want to know, there's somebody in that guild that has done it and can tell you how to do it or how to fix it.
Well, and you know what? That's one of the good things about quilters and belonging to a quilt guild is that they share, don't they?
Absolutely.
Yes,
Absolutely.
that's the best part. It certainly is. Well, I know that your guild does a lot of charity work in your community. Let's talk a little bit about what you do there.
Okay. Back in 1990, I can't believe that's 30 years ago. I was thinking about that today. One of our members came to us and asked us to think about doing a project for a group called Project Safe, which is the local battered women's shelter here in Athens. And what they told us is that when the women and the kids leave an abusive situation, they normally have to leave everything. They're not allowed to bring anything at all with them. And so the idea was that we would provide a stash of quilts at the house, and when the kids came in, they could pick out their favorite quilt, and that was theirs to keep. They didn't have to give it back, or it wasn't just for them to use while they were there, but it was theirs. The best story that we had came right after we had started doing this. The director came and spoke to our guild, and she said that one little boy had picked out his quilt, and then a couple of weeks later had to go into the hospital for some surgery, and absolutely refused to go unless his quilt could go with him. So I think that just shows that the comfort that a quilt can bring, and I think that just kind of spurred our needles to sew a little bit faster, hearing that really sweet story.
And you still make quilts for that project?
We do. We have made thousands of quilts over the last 30 years for them. And we also have gone a little bit further and have made quilts for all the beds that are in the safe house. And then even a couple of times, the women that were leaving the safe house to start their own journeys in apartments and things, we've given quilts for them to take with them. So bringing a little bit of comfort and warmth and color to their new homes.
And they know they've received love from somebody, didn't they?
Exactly.
Yes, they sure do. How about some other community projects that you do?
Well, our charity bee is the heart of our guild, and they gave away 414 quilts just last year, not including Quilts of Valor, which is a different set. And we, a few years ago, gave a quilt to the American Cancer Society for the Relay for Life, and they auctioned it off and raised over $6,000. So I was like, whoa. We also, we've had a lot of groups, local communities, agencies that we have given to. This year, the hospitals have not wanted quilts because of COVID. So we've added 2 new groups, sort of like what she was talking about. One is the Women's Recovery Residence from Substance Abuse. It's called Freedom from Bondage, and they have 56 twin beds. We're trying to make quilts for. And also the Gateway Domestic Violence Shelter in Gainesville. And one of our quilters has made over 100 quilts for them and has asked for help because I guess they take them with them. And so we've added them to our list to keep going during this time. And you can just tell that it's a labor of love, that they really like doing it.
All right, well, and so I'll tell you what, our sponsor of this program is Handy Quilter, and we're going to just take a short time and hear a message from Handy Quilter, and when we come back, we're going to talk about what you're doing right now during this time of coronavirus.
Hi, I'm Johnny from Handy Quilter's Watch and Learn Quilting Show. Join us live on Facebook every week as we present Handy Quilter products, tips and tricks, as well as specials on selected products. Be sure to visit your local retailer or handyquilter.com.
Well, welcome back. And before we go to the coronavirus activities, let's go back and talk about your Quilts of Valor program and also your educational program, which I know is really important.
About 3 years ago, we decided to partner with the local Quilts of Valor chapter and making quilts for our veterans. Actually, this is one of them behind us now. We have enjoyed working on those projects and presenting those quilts. And it's so much fun to go to the ceremonies and to see the color guard being done by some of the junior ROTC groups, or to see hear the bagpiper in the distance playing. It's very moving. And then to see all of these gentlemen sitting there, normally with their baseball caps on, that tells where they served and what units they were in and all of that sort of thing. I recently had an opportunity to have one of my quilts, to actually be there when one of my quilts was presented. And it was very special to be able to go up to this gentleman and tell him thank you for his service, because I'd been thinking about him while I was making it. We go a little bit further with our quilts. One of our members has an embroidery machine, and for every quilt, she embroiders this down here that gives all the information about the recipient, and then also embroiders the emblem. So every quilt has all of that information on the back of it.
Wow, that is beautiful.
We're excited about that.
Yes. Well, and if you've ever been at a quilt show or any other event where they've made a presentation of the Quilts of Valor, you know what? It's a certificate, and many of these veterans, especially if they served in Vietnam, never received a thank you for their service, and sometimes they break down in tears because it's the first time they've ever been thanked.
Yeah,
it's a great program, and Quilts of Valor Foundation, QOVF.org, I think is their website. If you have somebody that you want to nominate to receive one of those quilts, or if you want to participate in making quilts, you can go to their website and all the information is there. AQS has worked with Quilts of Valor over the past few years, and we've displayed quilts that we've taken around as a special exhibit. And when we do that, we always have some kind of a presentation at the shows. So if you ever get a chance to see one of those presentations, you'll be moved, won't they?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, they sure will. Let's talk about education now.
Okay, well, one of our guild's founding purposes was to share our love of quilts and to teach the community about it. And one way is through our show that we have every 2 years. And but we also like to go out in the community and share. So we've had a group go to the fall festival at Linden House, where we meet, Linden House Art Center. And we had over 500 children go through and pick out those squares of fabric and glue them down. It was exhausting, but so great. We
Yes.
had a group go to the University of Georgia's Museum of Art, and we did how to do a 9-patch, hand quilting, and piecing, machine piecing. And one young man came over to the table, went up to see the exhibit, and when he came back down, he had a whole quilt design that he wanted to start right then. So I felt we're pretty successful. We have taken quilts to community events like band concerts. We have put quilts into art exhibits to kind of promote quilting as an art. We have gone into classrooms, and Frances has done that, and she has a little story about a young man there.
We were helping one class actually piece a little 9-patch, and apparently the little boy went home and told his mom, "I'll take care of all the mending from now on, so you don't need to worry about any of that. I've got it all under control."
Yes.
So, well, you know what? He learned something that day, didn't he?
Exactly.
Right, yes.
Yes, he did.
So we love going out and having an opportunity to share quilting and, you know, get people interested in what it is and the art aspect.
And do
one
you
of the
want to talk
purposes.
about that quilt that you have hanging behind you anymore? You said it was a quilt that was made for Quilts of Valor.
Yes, it
Yes.
was.
And so does it have a special name or anything?
Not that we know of.
No,
It has one of the beautiful labels, but I don't think it's named.
Well,
I
it's
think
certainly,
the
the
quilters-
yellow stars really stand out on that quilt, don't they?
They
Yes.
sure do.
Oh, you mean
Well-
the pattern?
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry. I don't know the name of that one either.
The woman that made this one, though, has made just so many quilts for Quilts of Valor. So she's well versed in making them.
And Charity, and they're all different. Each one is different. It's amazing.
Well, that's
labor of
it's a
love.
great program, so I hope that more people
Yes.
will get involved and make quilts for them, because I know they always have a need for more quilts to give to our
Yes.
veterans as a thank you.
Yeah.
Well, and so let me talk about the quilt over my shoulder. This is a quilt that I made, and the pattern for this is in my book called Anybody Can Learn to Quilt. And we were just talking because the colors are very similar between these two quilts, aren't they? We both use
Yes.
reds and yellows, and I use blue-green, and that one uses blue. But you know what?
Yes.
I think anytime you use yellows and oranges, it makes that quilt just vibrate, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
Yes, it sure does. Okay, let's talk about what you're doing now during the coronavirus. I'm sure, you see, I have this mask on. I wear one around my neck every day here in the office. If I'm in my office, I don't have to put it on, but if we go into a meeting or some other smaller space, we do wear our masks here at the AQS office. And it looks like we're going to be wearing masks for quite some time yet. And so I
This
really
is
want to encourage everybody out there to
This is the first time I've been close to somebody without a mask.
and you were just waiting for that hug too, weren't you, Frances? Well, let's talk about what your
Okay.
guild's doing right now, because times are different.
Well, our charity bee is still meeting on Wednesday mornings at Linden House. They go up in the fiber room, and they have a procedure just that works like a well-oiled machine and is still pretty much functioning. Now some people make the whole top, the whole quilt themselves, but most people piece the top, take it in. The bee finds a back and binding fabric. It's assigned to a long armor, and then it comes back and it goes to a binding person, either machine or it's hand bound if it's for Quilts of Valor. During the COVID, they're wearing masks. They're only supposed to be 4 in a room, but you'll see in the pictures that there are a few more than 4 going in. But there's been a lot of transfers between trunks in garages. Some people have left things on their front porch and somebody picks it up, or they drop it off, a lot of that. And they used to sew together in the fiber room. And now there's not much sewing. They just go up, drop things off, redistribute. So that bee is still going strong. And then Frances has been responsible for keeping us together for other things. So I'm gonna let her talk about the others.
Well, in May, after we had been a couple of months since we'd seen each other, I thought, well, let's just do a Zoom meeting and see if anybody wants to come and just get together. And that first meeting, we just talked, which was fine, but was probably a little bit boring. I think most of us were like, is the 40 minutes over yet? So
We'll look at each other.
yeah.
Like, oh, hi.
So I got the idea of doing a Zoom show and tell. So the idea is that people send me pictures of whatever they've been working on. And then when we're in the meeting, I can share my screen and everybody can see that quilt. And then the maker has time to talk about it, which is great because, you know, in the guild meetings, show and tells normally towards the end. And it's kind of like, here's my quilt and I made it and bye, because we're running out of time at that point. So this has been nice because people have been able to talk about the techniques, and other people have been able to ask questions, and maybe even the person making it says, I just don't think this color's working. What do you think? And, you know, we've been able to talk through stuff. I had one quilt that I couldn't think of a name for it. And we went on to the next quilt, and I could see one of the people sitting there, and you could see she was just really thinking about it. And a couple of minutes later, she said, oh, I got the name. And she did. It was perfect. But we've been doing that now every other week since June. We did have our first Zoom presentation a couple of weeks ago, and we had 30 people come. Yeah, I did it. We had 30 people come, which was pretty good, honestly. It was a talk that I had done a couple of years ago, so a lot of people had already seen it and didn't need to see it again anyway. But it went well, and I think it was good because we did have some people that weren't coming to show and tell show up for that presentation, and I'm hoping we can do more of those in the future.
Well, we also helped them get Zoom on their computers, and so that when we get somebody else, you know, everybody can tune in and watch it. So
I started the meeting 30 minutes early. We were starting at 7, and I opened the Zoom meeting at 6:30 and said, okay, if you think you're going to have trouble, hop on now and we'll work on it before we actually get started with the meeting. But that worked out really well.
Well, and you know, we're all learning how to use this technology and the different ways that you can use Zoom, because there are lots of different aspects of how you can share the images, like you said, with the photos. And you know what? Of every guild meeting, the best part always is show and tell, when you get to see quilts, right?
Yes. We haven't figured out, we have a challenge going on that was extended from June. And we're going to put it in the newsletter, and we may do something with the Zoom program, but it's not quite the same as seeing them in person, but it's better than nothing. It's still getting together, sharing. So
well, and I know some guilds are putting stuff like that on their Facebook page, because then you could click on it and you could zoom in on it and be able to see a little bit more.
Page, so.
Right.
Actually, we've done that with some of the show and tell. Somebody will say, now if you'll just zoom into this little part of this picture so I can zoom it in and everybody can look at it.
Well, all right. Well, you have a really active guild. And, you know, as part of the sponsorship from Handy Quilter for this program, they are giving away a sewing machine. And I want to tell you all how you can go register so that maybe you can win that sewing machine. It's an HQ Stitch 710, and it's a machine that's made for piecing and applique. And it has 170 built-in stitches. It has a 9mm wide foot on it so that you can do the wide decorative stitches on your machine. And it has a knee lift. So if you're used to using a knee lift to do your piecing, it can save you a lot of time by keeping all your hands up here and using your knee to lift the presser foot. And the value of that sewing machine is $3,495. So it's a really nice machine. So to register, if you will go to quiltweek.com/guildbuzz and scroll down until you find the register button. And then you can go in and register, and someone's going to win that at the end of the year. Our programs right now are sponsored by Handy Quilter through the end of December, and then we'll draw for the winner of that sewing machine. While you're there, we also have a short survey. It's only 7 questions long, and the survey right now is about online classes. We want to hear from you. Are you taking online classes? If you are, what's your preference in length of classes? What are you paying for those classes? It's 7 questions. It'll just take you a couple minutes to go in and answer those, and we really do want to hear from what you're doing out there. And I know I've been taking classes myself. I've taken some live classes where you had to watch it right now. I've taken some where you could watch it for a certain period of time. I've taken multiple lessons, so it was on multiple days with some taped instruction. So I've been out there myself trying to figure out what works best for me, and I'm sure you've been doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, do you know what? We've loved hearing about the Cotton Patch Quilters Guild. Thank you so much for Sharon and Francis for joining us today. And
Thank you for having us. It's
well,
been fun.
you know what? Everybody is loving these programs and getting to share with each other. And we will be back here next week to share with you again. That will be Wednesday afternoon at 3 o'clock Central Standard Time. And thanks again, ladies, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye. Happy quilting.